Welcome to your latest Nottingham Forest news. Coming up on today's episode, Forest put in a bid for Giménez from Feyenoord. Montiel looking less likely now. Moreno says he's happy at Aston Villa. And Sosa speaks for the first time as a Forest player. All this and plenty more coming up today on your latest Forest news. Let's get into it. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to your latest Forest transfer news. As a bid has been put in for a striker, and we're going to get into all of it. But first, as always, please don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't already. Make sure if you're new here and you want your daily Forest news, you're subscribed with your alerts on so you don't miss it as it breaks. And we have, as always, an offer for you guys for Surfshark. So for any of you using Netflix, do you know how screwed we are getting in the UK? When you look at the US library, the Australia library, and plenty of other countries around the world, they get more shows on their Netflix. But with Surfshark, you can unlock those. Simply get Surfshark with code FFTV, which gives you 4 extra months for free. And then just change your location to the USA, load up your Netflix, and hey presto, all those shows become magically available to you. Scan the QR code or click on the link that's in the comments below. Okay, let's jump into this and let's start with the details of this offer from Forest on Giménez. All right, so Forest have put in a bid of 21 million for Giménez. This is way below the asking price that Feyenoord want from him. Remember, initially we told you they value him at 40 million euros, which is about 34 million pounds. Now they have moved down slightly. According to Ben Jacobs, our mate, he says this has come down to 30 million is what they want for Giménez to greenlight the deal. Now, Forest did put some add-ons and everything else, all the pretty bows on the deal, but they've said no, this bid has been rejected. So let me just read you out a couple of tweets from some of these guys. So Romano has said, Forest presented an initial proposal worth about 25 million. Feyenoord are not accepting this, they want more. And as I just mentioned, Ben Jacobs, he's put it in pounds. Forest made a bid for 21 million plus add-ons. Feyenoord said no, and Feyenoord want 30 million for him. So it's not a million miles off. We're about 9 million. You probably say split the difference. You probably end up with 25 plus 5 in add-ons, something like that. But if Feyenoord start to dig their heels in, because they're not in a position where they need to sell, Giménez himself is not really actively looking for a move. And what I mean by that is that if nothing changes, he's quite happy to stay at Feyenoord for this season. Forest, though, have had conversations with him. So what's happened is Marinakis Jr. has had a chat with him, and then subsequently to that, Nuno has had a chat with Giménez as well. And this tells us a couple of things. Clearly, there's dialogue going on between the club and the player, and clearly Nuno is keen on him, otherwise he wouldn't be wasting his time having a chat with him. The player profile himself, look, the best way I can describe him is cliche, he's a goal scorer. He's not a player who just picks up the ball from the halfway line, skills up half the team, and then sends one flying into the top corner or flicks it over the keeper and Scorpion kicks it in. He's not the kind of player that, will step over City through the midfield and then a couple of La Croquetas and a tornado or two or what have you. No, he's a goal scorer, almost a fox in the box. Having said that, he does drift out towards the wings to pick the ball up. He does create a lot of opportunities for his teammates. He's got a good low cross that he brings in. He can finesse the ball in from the right-hand side, cutting onto his left foot. So he won't just bring goals to the team, he'll also bring assists. But he's not the most exciting player. You're going to get goals, and that's what we need. We don't need a Ronaldinho-style player coming in or a Messi or what. Well, I wouldn't say no, but you get my point. We just need someone who's going to guarantee us goals, someone who isn't going to play as a number 9 behind the number 6 like we saw at the weekend, and someone who's got some pace about him. Now, he's not lightning fast, but he is quite fast. He has the ability to get away from the first defender, but then can't really, for me, accelerate past into the open space. So he's capable in all departments. He's also very strong. He's good at holding the ball up and is obviously an international player for Mexico. But he's still not my number one choice. Now, just because I'm saying he's not my number one choice, I'll be doing backflips if he comes, because obviously, in my opinion, he's better than Taiwo and he's better than Chris Wood. So I'd like to see him come to Forest. But at the same time, if we get towards that 30 million price tag, you do then start to wonder, could we get better? And what do I mean by that? And I know I'll probably get shot down in the comments, and I don't really care anyway, but you start to look at people like Tony, and I'm just using him as an example. I think if everyone's honest to themselves, they would take Tony at Forest because of his goal scoring. Yes, he's a bit of a twat off the pitch, but it is what it is. And Brentford have had zero interest from any Premier League team on him. In fact, the only link right now is him moving to Saudi, where he's trying to demand something like 20 odd million in wages. And Tony needs to keep himself in the limelight, aka the Premier League. If he goes off to Saudi, who's going to be watching him? What's that going to do for his England career, etc.? So if Forest are getting towards that £30 million mark, and Tony is valued somewhere between 30 and 40, then maybe just cutting up that, putting a little few extra million in the pot, bringing it to 35 could sway him. Now, I don't think the transfer fee is a problem. I think there are two problems when it comes to Tony. One, does he want to come to Forest? Probably not. And secondly, his wages. He'll probably want something like 200 to 250k. Now, we have cleared a lot of the wage bill this summer, so that has freed up. Our PSR numbers are looking good. We are now a fully fledged PSR Premier League team where we get over the 100 million allowance now instead of, the 83 and the 60 odd, whatever it was before that. So we do have room to maneuver this. But I still think Tony could be a deal Forest look at. But I still want Moukoko. Moukoko, for me, is the perfect profile for what we want. But like I say, I'm not against Giménez. He will score us goals. That's what we need. But what do you guys feel about him? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, let's move on and give you the update on Montiel. Obviously, we all know him from last season at Forest, and there were talks that he was going to come back. Now, it's been reported in The Athletic that this is very unlikely to happen. And I'm glad, I have to say, because I don't mind him as a player. I think he was decent, and if he had a run in the team, he would have done a lot better than he did. Obviously, he picked up a few injuries, didn't really get much of a consistent run, and then we had to bench him so that we didn't have to buy him from Sevilla. But I just think there's clear signs here that we still need fullbacks. And we've all seen the links to fullbacks and the conversations on the left-back position. But I'm now looking at the right side and thinking, if Einar is injured, and my plan of switching Einar across to the right-hand side, not that I get a say in it, and then bringing in the new left-back on the left-hand side, if he's injured, can I rely on Nico Williams? And my honest answer is no. Look, I've not changed my thoughts on Nico Williams. I bigged him up for the first half this weekend. I thought he was probably man of the match at halftime, but he did not have a good second half. And that second half was what I've been seeing for me for the last 2 years with Nico Williams. So there is clearly now a push from Forest to bring fullbacks in. Are they priority positions? Well, let me pose that question to you guys. In my opinion, probably not so much so. We still need a striker, and we need backup for Sangare for me as well in midfield. So Montiel not coming in. There's no other right back links really happening at the moment with Forest. What we do know is they're probably putting a list together to see who they can bring in. And this hasn't annulled the need for a left back either. In fact, if Einar is injured and it is an extensive injury, then that will prioritize the left back position just a bit more as well. So what do you guys feel about Montiel? This one looks like it's done and dusted and not happening. Thank God. There were reports out as well to say this one was very close. It was going to be a 4-year deal and what have you. It's not looking the case right now. Get your thoughts in on Montiel down below. And that brings us on to the left back position and Alex Moreno, the guy that I do not want. And why did I say I don't want him? Because he rejected Forest after everything was nearly done 2 years ago. And we had a discussion on it on Grumpy Old Reds last night, and they all disagreed with me, and some in the chat agreed and some didn't agree. And I understand the points there. However, what's happening now kind of further proves my point on the player. One, he's too old. Secondly, and more importantly, he doesn't want Forest. He's come out now and said he is happy to stay at Villa, the usual crap, fight for his place and everything like that, even though he is third choice. So as far as I see it, someone who's third choice at a Premier League club that has a star less than us and doesn't want to move to the team with 2 stars, for me tells me he is not interested. And I think that would reflect in his attitude on the pitch. If Forest were able to convince him on the loan move, for example, I'm not against a loan move, it's not that deep. But if we're able to, how committed of a player is he going to be? Is he just going to try to use Forest as a shop window? I'm fine with that one. Or is he going to come to Forest just to be able to keep his fitness up and not really commit on the pitch? And that's the way I feel he would go. I don't think he'll say stay fit all season either at that age, man. He's old. So, you know, I'm against this one. And I'm glad in a way he's come out and said that he's interested. He wants to stay at Villa, because it should hopefully let you guys see where I'm coming from on it. But maybe you don't care. Maybe you think his talent is good enough that he should be in the team. So get your thoughts in on Moreno down below. But with that attitude and that statement coming from him, I can't see this one happening. Don't say jinxery either. Okay, so with all the Premier League kicking off and the game and the excitement with Bournemouth and then the aftermath and the thoughts on everything else going on, we never really got a chance to say Sosa is a red, finally. And to be honest, I couldn't even be bothered to do the video on the Saturday morning when it was all announced, or Friday, whenever it was, because I got bored of the whole saga. But he is a red, you know, breaking news for you guys. But he has come out and he has done his first interview officially with Forest. And he comes across as a really down-to-earth guy and someone who's really excited to be here. And this is literally what I like, because it's the polar opposite of Moreno. He's keen, he wants to play in the Premier League. He got the tick box sheet from, you know, the media team. He talked about the history and everything else. So he covered his back there. But in general, you could sense the sparkle in his eye, the excitement about being in England, at Nottingham, in the Premier League and all of that. And I'm excited to see him play. I think there's a huge talent in there. And it's just, where does he fit in? I've now got a feeling that we'll see him more on the right-hand side than on the left-hand side, because I'm not convinced that Nuno really was behind the signing of Jota Silva. He could have brought him on instead of Dominguez to keep the side balanced against Bournemouth, but chose not to. It does make me start to think that this whole Olympiacos thing is probably going to happen. Why? Because I flash back to the likes of Santos, the likes of Barde before, where they were put on the bench but weren't put onto the pitch so that they could make their moves, so they hadn't played for 3 clubs, etc. Now, obviously, that's not the case with Jota, but it's just a thought that flashed into my mind. So I expect Sosa to start challenging Elanga on that right-hand position. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi is too locked in on that left-hand side. But what we might see is him, you know, with 20 minutes to go in a game, come on and replace Callum Hudson-Odoi. That kind of balance on there and everything else, giving him a little break into the team. But I'm ready for someone to come in on that right-hand side. I think Elanga, as I've always said, is an impact sub. Last 20 minutes when the defense are slowing down and tiring, that's when you bring Elanga on. Start with a Sosa or start with a Jota on that right-hand side. And let's really go for Southampton this weekend. One final thing to tell you guys about the Carabao Cup match. Shock horror. This probably won't surprise you lot. Will be played on Wednesday. And why am I saying that? Because Tonali's ban, ends on the Tuesday. So Forest will welcome back another banned player the day after the ban is lifted. So expect to see Tonali start for Newcastle on Wednesday as we get the Carabao Cup underway next Wednesday, obviously. Ladies and gents, that brings you up to date with your latest Forest news. If you haven't already, Please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. If you've got Netflix, I fully recommend going and getting Surfshark. It will change your lives forever. Grumpy Old Reds is on the end screen. If you haven't seen it, go catch it now. Come on, you Reds.